Also the spokesperson. First of all, thank you for coming. Let me introduce myself, Felipe Agusti, agricultural journalist with my father, Ricardo, who will be arriving any minute.
Todas las tardes. Pero acá lo importante es a lo que vinimos, a cómo sembrar mejor en el día de hoy. Para eso organizamos esta charla de manera conjunta con la firma Agrometal de Montemaíz, en la provincia de Córdoba, y también con la Universidad Nacional de Rosario, con la Facultad de Ciencias Agrarias. Lo importante de esta charla es que al final ustedes se puedan llevar el concepto de saber cómo sembrar mejor, pero conociendo también la sostenibilidad y sustentabilidad del suelo y del ambiente. Por eso estaría bueno que una vez que estén las ponencias, empecemos a hacer un intercambio, vamos a tener unos micrófonos, yo me voy a deslizar por la sala mientras levantan la mano y vamos con ese juego de preguntas y respuestas. Bueno, voy a presentarlos a los que saben, ¿sí? Por parte de la firma Agrometal, el ingeniero Juan Pablo Vélez, especialista en producto. Un fuerte aplauso. Nicolás Hipóliti, el jefe de satisfacción al cliente de Agrometal. Y el ingeniero Lisandro Repetto, de la Universidad Nacional de Rosario, se pone de pie. Dice que los pelados son los más importantes. Bueno, ahora que ya estamos todos, vamos a empezar con vos. Lisandro, ¿te parece?
Me parece muy bien.
¿Vas con este micrófono?
No, yo me siento más cómodo ahí usando las manos libres.
Bueno, vamos entonces, comenzamos.
Bueno, como primera medida quería agradecerle a Agrometal la posibilidad de poder participar del Congreso Aapresid. Hace muchos años que trabajo en la Facultad en Maquinaria Agrícola en Zavalla y es casi como que una alegría poder venir a presentar esto que uno trabajó tanto tiempo, que es con las sembradoras. A lo que nos trae, uno de los primeros puntos que mencionó él era el tema de la evaluación de la calidad de siembra y para eso está súper estudiado y hay normas que me terminan definiendo cómo medir una sembradora. Para poder medir esa sembradora nosotros no tenemos que olvidar que hay un montón de ítems para prestarle atención y dijo mi profesor o mi mentor, que era Jorge Maroni, o es Jorge Maroni todavía, que una buena siembra inicia cuando la diferencia entre lo que yo programé para conseguir y el stand de planta que consigo es el mínimo posible, todas distribuidas a la misma distancia y el tiempo para nacer de todas esas semillas tiene que ser el mínimo, o sea, tienen que nacer todas juntas. Básicamente tres conceptos que aparecen ahí abajo: población, distribución y emergencia. Para eso se puede medir, todo se puede medir. ¿Qué pasa? Cuando nosotros empezamos a pensar en una buena siembra, tenemos que iniciar con una buena calidad de semilla, tenemos que pensar en el ambiente, dónde vamos a sembrar o cuándo vamos a sembrar. Esas condiciones ambientales terminan siendo determinantes.
Determining factors in ensuring sowing success, and machine choice and supervision and professional supervision of the process in general helps or contributes to success. When we say that we have to start sowing, we have to determine which sowing machine to use, which toaster, whether it's load transfer or not, how depth control is made, if it was going to ride along roads or not, what about the hopper, if it's versatile for few crops or not. And corporate issues are also important. The 0800 Houston, who helps me when I have a problem. So after sale or post-sale service and the dealer network is very important. These are determining factors, in my opinion. Of course, there's lots of gray areas in between. Now, talking about sowing quality in fine grains, we have that standard for measurement purposes, but generally speaking, in order to qualify a planter or seeding machine, how many segments there are? How many plants there are in a 10-centimeter segment? I was younger. Back then, I was not bold, even if you do not believe me, but we saw low density and high density using a volumetric doser, one chevron, and a pneumatic doser, half and half. You can see low density and high density. I think it was this picture here. This is what low density and high density looked like, what it ended up looking like at the end of a given period. Generally speaking, we used wheat physiology, 70 and 120 kilograms being sown, and this allowed me for some kind of offset and capture sun rays during the critical period, which is what defines or determines success for that crop. As we can see in results, the variation ratio, the results between one doser, a single grain doser, and the volumetric doser obtain similar values because it's many seeds per meter. So it has the ability to choose one seed at a time when the seeds are being sown, and when we use that density, by the time it reaches the soil, results are not that different. So in the case of a volumetric doser, when it's more critical, there are sectors between 0 and 5 seeds. That's one where the pneumatic doser works best, and the volumetric one has a larger scatter. But results are no different for that seeding or sowing density. Maybe the target sowing has yet another critical aspect to it. This happened last Sunday. You are familiar with this picture. What is the critical time in F1 races? Replenishment. In a high hopper capacity planter, we maybe have 2,800 kilograms of seeds, 130 kilograms per hectare. This can be done with 20-something hectares per hopper at 8 kilometers per hour, being conservative. We have to pay attention and ensure that we will be reseeding every 4.5 hours or so. This is a planter, so a high fertilizer dose would not be good, agronomically speaking. At this point, we may have a large hopper, but if we have not adapted the whole system, we take too long to refill the hopper. So we are wasting time and affecting productivity. Whereas if we have a planter with a refilling system, this is overcome. Yet another thing that we need to take into consideration in the case of coarse grain is failure. One seed per cell is key. We must have population and distribution. These are two of the concepts that I shared at the beginning. If we have 2 seeds being sown or lack of seeds, on average, we will achieve the target population, but distribution will be inadequate. There has been 40 holes, 40 seeds, but it has to be 1 per hole. So we may achieve the right population, but with some uneven distribution. Ultimately, depending on how the seeds are sown, that is an example of seed sown for this kind of system, for a plate system, which is no longer being used or hardly used because this type of planter is no longer sold for corn sowing, but the difference in seed size will affect the vacuum. I need a pneumatic dosing equipment in order to have 1 seed per cell. If that difference in seed size is associated to high speed and high sowing density, the possibility or the probability of failure, because feeding time is shorter, will end up. I haven't touched anything, mind you. They told me there is a key I did not have to play, but I haven't pressed that key. Houston, we are in trouble. So, as I was saying, when the seed is too small and it's too tight into the cell, or vacuum is not enough, we may have some missing seeds, and if the vacuum is not adjusted to the seed size, we have the risk of having two seeds in the same cell. What happens with compacting? In order to ensure that the seed will germinate, the seed takes water from soil, so there must be some tight contact between the soil and the seed to absorb water and start the germination process. We have used wheel farrows with or without compacting, and all seeds grow, they all germinate, but over 70% of the population emerges 7 days before the cases where we used wheel barrow. You see the bars with the different colors to determine what plant will emerge first and which one will emerge later. Depth and moisture content are directly associated to stubble and soil compaction and load control, which I have. That is why this load control is a determining factor to ensure that I will place all seeds at the same depth so as to ensure consistent temperature and concurrent emergence. What happens with these systems? We end up seeing this. Maybe you are familiar with this picture. When we are harvesting, we want to preserve our activity as farmers, and we do not care about moisture. The blue portion shows the lack of contact, and sowing depth is random there. Plants will grow when they have to, so sowing starts far before or well before the sowing process itself. Moisture content will be a determining factor for the seed to germinate. So far, so good? Now then, to measure distribution in the sowing line, everyone has used this at some point in time. It's plenty of patience and data, even though modules or the screen will show that variation ratio that we want to have so that it will be useful. We need to have a theoretical distance at which all seeds should be sown in order to have a uniform population. For practical purposes, I will have to find 70% of the seeds at a distance of 3-4 centimeters away. That's the average distance between seeds. If I want to plant 80,000 seeds per hectare, I will have to have 42 seeds in 10 meters. That's 24 centimeters distance between seeds, plus minus. So I should find all seeds between 20 and 28 centimeters apart. That will be good sowing, but I need to dig to ensure that that seed has been planted where the monitor shows, because sometimes there is a difference between when the seed was released from the machine and when it reaches the ground. Then there are other technology questions to take into account, which is the weight of the machine and the compaction, the impact the technology may have, whether it will be more or less difficult to perform water spraying because of the farrow. There are elements within the planter that will contribute to that. This is always related to the fact that few people read the user's manual to learn about the technology they have invested in. we leave it in the hands of the sower what the sowing direction should be, and this may affect our business. Otherwise, we might start managing this. I mean, sowing in one direction, spraying in that same direction, and then the machine has lots of technologies available. For example, maximum tire pressure is used, and we misuse this or miss this opportunity that contributes to caring for the soil. This is a clear example of a tire. This is a radial tire, and this is a diagonal one, high flotation tire. It's same amount of kilograms in the hopper. It is better to have a larger footprint. We make use of the technology available to us thanks to a large tank that covers many hectares, and we look after the soil. And whatever we sow following that footprint will not be affecting the sowing business. There's plenty of technology available, such as curve offsetting to maintain population within the system, line-by-line control. In case you have an electric motor in the planter, this is to avoid overlapping. Many more things can be achieved in addition to the line-by-line cutting, having a variable rate. Plant sits there, and since I already have the equipment item, then this is achieved for free. This is an example of use of this technology. If using a GIS, I can determine the limits for each footprint, and each dot is a furrow. That's how the system documents the amount of seeds for 5 meters. This is the sowing map. Wherever there is the footprint, there is no sowing. Every 5,000 hectares, that's synonymous to $3,000 worth of seeds. Supposing or assuming that we are saving in terms of the amount of seeds used and not considering other factors. There are other platforms that you are familiar with to manage this information. This is automatically uploaded on the website, and you can see it on your mobiles. You all have mobile phones, right? I had to make sure that that was the case. Maybe there's someone who still doesn't have a mobile phone for work. So at the end of the day, we manage this information before sowing, that is the variable rate, the guideline. We may run tests and have real-time results on what is being fertilized, what hybrids are being obtained, and will we see harvesting results shown automatically on the platform, associating seed or variety fertilization and yield. The harvester will identify what has been sown. That I have to import. It doesn't know what bag I have opened to fill the hopper, and we may have these results. Or when working with different densities, we can develop a variable density application map to identify the optimal density for our plots or environments. If it's a new field, for example, that I'm leasing and I'm not familiar with, and the harvester will automatically deliver this information on yields based on the sowing activity.
So being patient and taking advantage of the installed technology, forcing things such as seed quality, moisture, sowing depth, we will be able to improve our planting quality, and we will be able to seed in a better way and more hectares. Thank you, Lisandro. Who may have several questions about everyday activities in the field. There will be time for questions at the end of the presentations. Before introducing the Agrometal representative, I'd like to say you that the company has a long track record, and they developed minor detail they list in the Buenos Aires Stock Exchange, where they've been present since 1960. Consumers. It's one of the most important industrial centers in South America. Agrometal is present in Argentina, Europe, Africa, and Latin America. It delivers technology to the different fields in the world. We'll now go to the second part of this session. We will focus on concrete solutions. Who's starting? Nico? Thank you. Well, in general terms, I'd like to show you what Agrometal can offer to you, considering what Guillermo has just said. We have 7 product lines for different types of grains. This is an air planter seeder. Seeds are distributed from the hopper to the furrows through air. Thinking of operations and replenishment, as Guille said, the hopper capacity is 6,100 liters. This is another model, TX Pivot, auto trailer machine, but instead of distributing through air, it's gravity delivery. TX Mega is our flagship. It's been in the market for many years. This is a 3rd generation, very robust, and it's known because of its robustness. As part of the fine grain machines, we have 3 models too. AGX shares hopper with the other model, same operating principle. Seeds are distributed by air. It's also a multi-purpose machine. If needed, you can add another kit for other grains. MX Max and FX are similar. There are 2 machines using gravity, multi-purpose. They're fine grain, but you can add a kit for other grain. The difference is size. MX Max is recommended for farmers who have their own fields and who are contractors as well, while this one is a smaller machine, 7 meters wide. I think it is more recommended for farmers with a mixed system, with some grassland and some crops, maybe soybean as a single crop. ADXZ is the latest machine launched by Agrometal. It was launched as a rice seeder. It's got special equipment to sow rice, but I think Juan Pablo will agree with me. I recommend this as a fine grain machine. So it's a rice seeder with a capacity of up to 40 centimeters. But if you plant in Entre Ríos, Corrientes, and you also plant rice, you can use that for wheat, barley, for some kinds of soybean. It's not just for rice. And then there is AGX Magna. The hopper has 4 compartments. The others have 2. So have 2 for seed, 2 for fertilizers. We go up to 13 meters work width. We can add Juan Piveles, who is a product specialist, and we keep on with this information. And we'll keep talking about planting windows. Lisandro has just mentioned some very important concepts: seeding quality, soil, care, operations. We have to make the most out of the machines. My favorite machines are AGX and APX because of their setup. I think the decision to go to the toolbar linked to the hopper gives us lots of advantages that we will describe if there is enough time to do so. But from the point of view of contractors and from the point of view of farmers, this machine offers several advantages. The contractors need to amortize their machines, and they want to have the maximum operating capacity so as to take advantage of all opportunities. And this machine offers floating and high penetration. We'll see why it flows and at the same time covers the whole width. And from the agricultural point of view, this is an opportunity. Seeding windows are becoming smaller. Operating conditions are more demanding because of drought or humidity or changes in culture. But the windows have become quite small. So we need to do this quickly and well. As head of customer satisfaction, we're seeing a room that's full of people representing different audiences. What can you tell people so that they will become familiar with everything you offer? Well, as Lisandro was saying, we have that toll-free number, 60 dealers, you mentioned them, distributed throughout the Argentinian productive area. They're all trained. Agrometal is continuously training all dealers, not only technical representatives, but also commercial representatives who are ready to give information to customers. Commercial representatives should be aware of all this information, and well, beyond the technology we can use, I think that when it comes to choosing a planter, we need it to plant well. And in order to make sure that's working well, we need to take a look at the distributor, autonomy, because that seeding window is becoming shorter, increasingly shorter, because the climate is changing, and we have to plant in a shorter time. And to do this, we need to stop less frequently, So if the machine needs less maintenance, if the body is more stable and I can go faster. There are some essays there carried out by Juan that are very interesting. Everything contributes for me to plant more hectares in a shorter time. This is excellent for contractors. Juan, in a year that was very good for cattle breeding industry, but a year that is critical for agricultural equipment, where profitability margins are becoming increasingly smaller, what other recommendation can you make for all of us in terms of the use of the equipment? Well, precisely, we have to choose the right piece of equipment based on your needs. Agrometal offers a wide range of possibilities for multi-purpose, fine grain, coarse grain. The most important thing is to choose the right tool you will use. Planting costs are quite high today, so you have to make the most out of all variables in a seeder. In terms of seeding quality, this is also key, and Agrometal, especially in grazing and alfalfa, where you are planting at the where you're not planting deep, I think you can work out that using technology, but you have to generate that from the machine. We have to develop machines that provide good seeding quality. Otherwise, we will not be correcting parameters. And do you have more fine or coarse grain in terms of seeding quality? Well, with corn, penetration of farmers were educated about quality, seeding quality, seed quality. Now, people want more information about fine grains. I was advising a farmer, and I had my book. There was an issue in a place, and the farmer was telling me it's not working well. The wheat is not well distributed. So I took my book and I told him, well, the wheat is tolerant. You don't need to be so accurate. You don't need that quality. And the farmer told me, I don't mind. I don't care about that. I wanted to plant well. If your machine will not do the right planting, then I will try to get another one. We need to pay attention to what farmers need. And there is another concept that's important for Agrometal. Beyond precision agriculture that implies giving every area what they need, we have a new concept that is seeding quality per individual. Every plant, regardless of the species and the variety, every plant needs the optimum conditions for its development. We were discussing with Juan adaptability, a machine that can adjust to any kind of soil, but I'm pretty sure that issues are different in the center of the country and in the north. Well, in the north, if you think of the provinces like Santiago del Estero, Chaco, most of the farmers there have very big fields, and by big, I mean really big. It's flat ground. They do have some compaction issues. So in Agrometal, because of the type of machines, APX uses a specific system, wheels, as Lisandro said. I'm sorry, used the wrong name. The treading is wide per surface unit, so we always try to optimize so the quality will be the right quality. In the north, When I think of the north, I always think of that area, Santiago del Estero, Corrientes, El Chaco. Well, maybe not so much Corrientes, but that said, I think we have to try and increase the number of hectares in time. In the north, climate is key, and the planting time is very short. Juan, would you like to add something else? Otherwise, we can start the Q&A session. Well, seeding quality is very important. You have to adjust all variables, not only bolts or welding. You think that iron is iron, that's it. But at Agrometal, we have a strong focus on improvement, and we consider every variable. We see that cloud there that we may not have time to explain, but in this case, body stability, a new body has been developed. Seed Pro that is quite stable in all planes. We have developed systems for air distribution, which are extremely accurate. The same level of optimum parameters in terms of planting quality for fine grains. It's distributing and dosing everywhere so that all parts of the field will receive the same number of seeds. So precision in corn, soybean, wheat. We have to plant effectively and efficiently. I have to consider all the different ranges, number of plants per meter, and this has to remain constant. And we have to measure all parameters in all changes, all developments, and we always have to find the right adjustment even before the customer comes and tells us, I want this to work well, or otherwise I will go for another supplier. And soil care is fundamental. I think this is another parameter we are committed to. The population, consumers are increasingly demanding soil care. They pay attention to how we produce. The EPX and APX is a very attractive piece of equipment. That capacity to distribute the weight of the hopper is so important so that the wheels will not be compacting the soil. In some machines, the hoppers are so heavy that increases the treading, and the tool containers are quite light, and this design allows for homogeneous distribution, and it also helps you take advantage of every centimeter. All seeding devices are fully aligned so that when you do not have all the body, when some parts come out, you need more maneuvers, and more that implies or leads to more compaction. I think this is a summary of what we have just discussed: operations, soil care, quality. What about concrete solutions? Concrete solutions for increasingly good seeding quality, increasingly high seeding quality. Let's see who has the first question now. Who dares asking the first question? Lisandro, who got his new name, can also answer your questions. Okay. Let's give him a mic. He's the most dangerous person here.
No me viste, estaba escondido acá atrás.
I was hiding behind. Question for Guillermo, for Lisandro, actually. It's actually for both. Could you measure the weight per surface unit, that is the pressure in the depth limiting wheel, narrow, wide, more or less low? No, I could not measure that. But if we were to hypothesize For example, 350 kilos load on the limiting wheel. Can this have a compaction effect that may be problematic? I'm speaking of compaction management. Of course, it will depend on soil moisture content. There are lots of gray areas. But since it's not extremely simple, the load will reach the bottom. For no-till, the direct wheels work very well, but since the area is smaller, it will generate a more compacted area around the seed when being planted. And generally speaking, there are several authors that indicate that this affects normal root development. And something, when talking about adjustment and compaction, everyone ends up adjusting the machine at the same depth and load. And there are furrow openers, the ones behind the wheels, or when the soil is more compacted, the adjustment should be different there. Or at least we should start thinking of adjusting the tires differently. I don't know if I have answered your question. Thank you. Any other question? Any farmer, contractor, student? You too? Hello, good afternoon. Could you better explain what the compensation system is, the fact about the seeds being planted at the same depth in the middle and the ends, and the wheel flotation system? Well, if I understood your question correctly, why is it that we use the same end-to-end, and why does it float at the same time? Okay. In response to the first question, that's because there is the hopper's ability to lighten up to the toolbar. There is not something that is completely separate. We do not have the hopper on the one hand and the other equipment on the other. They are aligned. The chassis and the hopper are aligned. And when the soil is hard, it discharges load or weight on the tool carrying bar. We have to determine to what extent it is advisable to plant or not. But this machine, when we're sowing corn, for example, if the soil is dry, we plant corn, otherwise soybean. We have that window of choice because, of course, we do not see the limiting wheel just revolving freely. The limiting wheel is revolving freely because the furrow opener does not get into the ground, and it works. The wheel works randomly. And as Lisandro showed, the map was in blue because the wheel was turning in the air, and it floats because when the soil is too soft, there's a device that stabilizes weight and the wheel turning. And these devices start receiving extra weight, ensuring even planting. The wheel size is 400, optionally 600 with high flotation. And some use dual wheels to plant in mud. You see daring approaches in the field. And let me add something. This type of machine has cylinders going from the hopper to the side wings. Those two cylinders, we call them land copies or land copying. They bear a burden on the wings, and they are hydropneumatic cylinders, and they deliver a given load onto the wings so that the pressure exerted is the same all over. And of course, it copies the land. That's why we call them land copy. And yet another piece of data about pressure is that the type of machine leaves the machine with windfalls, which is the hydropneumatic cylinder that provides load to the body of the planter. Those four guys there, are you students? The third row, those who are raising your hands. Where are you from? From Luján University. What have you thought about the talk, and what do you bring back as take-home messages? It was very good. we have used machinery already, all four of us. I was thinking about what rice planting is like. We are not familiar with it. Can you say anything about that? Or is there any video? Well, I was not familiar with rice planting. I studied in Córdoba. And when Agrometal asked me to say something, the only thing I knew about rice is paella, no, the Spanish dish. So we had to learn from scratch. I don't know if you can play this video. This is how rice is planted. Well, the video is not playing. There it goes. That's how rice is sown. Well, there's great irregularity in the soil, footprints, types are very difficult. You have to deal with them carefully. The rice sowing technology has changed. There is a handbook called the Manual del Aguador, developed by people in the province of Entre Rios, which very well explains these new concepts. Generally, the farrow is just made. You have to be careful. It breaks easily, and you will lose water. So there's someone checking that it will replicate the level curves. It has to be very well aligned. It's a challenge to have an inexpensive equipment that will do that. System has been developed, GSI, a smart geometry coping system. There is a spring whereby if the body of the machine goes up, rather than, I mean, it's like the toolbox lock. The spring reaches a point in its race that rather than pushing is released. So when you get to the surface of what we call in Spanish taipa, it won't exert much pressure. And what is important about this machine, notice the video, is stability because of the rocker arm. The rocker arm has two wheels. When one of them goes up, the other one, he reverts the message. When one goes down, the other one will go up. And the shaft will maintain a certain linearity. If there were just one wheel, this is what the shaft would do, and with the rocker arm, the movement is softer because the rocker arm accompanies the shaft movement. As a result, there's very good stability, which translates into the body of the machine using the same race. If the machine tilts, there will be different pressures on the soil. If you look at if you watch the video, I said, poor driver, you have to be very skilled. See that the tractor moves, but the planter does not. It is running along a single plane without any abrupt movement. Have you seen the wood cutting machine? Well, there's a limiting factor there, but you can cut wood, metal, etc. The same thing here. There's good flotation, and thanks to the blades in hard and soft soils, the machine will work in the same fashion, leaving rice seeds 2 meters deep. And then there is the cover wheel, which was also a challenge. For cover purposes, wheels were used. There are pneumatic wheels that cover the seats, because oftentimes they cannot find the right cover machine for some kind of soft coverage. They tie tires at the back. There is a planter, we won't mention the brand, with tires tied at the back. In the case of alfalfa, oftentimes the farrow is left open so that there will not be any issues. Well, ideally, we should close the furrow, cover the furrow, find a way out so that we won't have to leave it open. How come we're saying that the seed has to be protected and covered to protect it against weather conditions, and we leave it open because we cannot cover it up? Well, these are all challenges that we're faced with this machine, plus corrosion, stress, and so on and so forth. Rice has a high silica content, so there is high wear and tear. We had to take that into consideration as well. Machine tilting. It may look similar to the DX planter, but there's plenty of changes in terms of the model. Last 3 minutes, 58 seconds. Let's go from Luján to this place here. Good afternoon. I'm studying at university. I'm a first-year student. I haven't taken the machinery course yet. There was a question I had, but which you have clarified, which is how is strength distributed throughout the planters so that the blades will cut evenly? Since the hopper had no weight and therefore did not dig into the ground, but you have clarified it already. Also, there is a law in force in Argentina regarding transportation, which speaks of 3.5 meters, but this machine has 3.8 meters. I don't know if you have looked into that. Yes, what you say about the law is true. With APX and ADX, we have 3.5 meters width in terms of transport. You can extend it to 3.80 if the 400, the 600 tire size is used. If you use those, you can go a bit further to 3.8 meters, but the standard as the machine leaves the factory is that one. Any other question here? The people sitting at the front. Luis Mateos from Roberts. I wanted to know, I'm thinking of the rocker arm. How does it work when the planter turns at the plot end? Maybe it exerts a special or different force that may affect a tight turn. The ADX works differently in that regard. It's true that when we shift from the turning center, such as with the wheels with the wings, there is some kind of drag, so it is convenient to skip 1 or 2 runs. They all have the same turning. We have thought of solutions for that, but we have to keep a balance or strike a balance between cost, between the development and the final cost. There are some developments that may bring a solution to this, which we are discussing, but it's a reality. You maybe have to change habits in terms of tractor driving and not do everything in auto mode. Well, if there are no further questions, we have reached the end there. Any other question? One final question. It's now or never. Speak now or remain silent forever, or else you can go to the Agrometal booth, either today or tomorrow. Well, thanks very much to you all for coming here. There are lots of talks, and you have chosen this one. So thanks very much on behalf of Agrometal, the University of Rosario, and a round of applause for all the speakers. Thank you.